Hello, can you see my slide? Hello? Is anybody hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you, Prof. We can hear you very well.
Okay, can you see my slide?
Yes, we can see your slide.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you for, for that long introduction, which is going to be longer than my presentation.
I know.
I'm glad that, I'm talking on the same panel with my very good friend and brother, Patrick Tipo. It's nice to know that you are here listening to me. I'm glad you are here. As I said, I'm here to get you in Nigeria. I'm been looking at the maximizing the global mRNA technology, the transfer hub and the spoke to enhance. Actually, I added that and spoke. There's a hub in South Africa, and there are the 6 spokes are the countries which you mentioned earlier on. So we need the spokes to make the wheel to run. But the hub is going to be in South Africa, and this is to look at the issue of vaccine production in Africa. I've quickly done a quick thing. I mean, you all know this one about how the COVID vaccine and the messenger RNA specifically is done. To your left, which I hope is to my left, which may be to your left, is you have the messenger RNA, which is placed in a liquid nanoparticle. Mixed with all sorts of things, polyethylene glycol and sucrose, and then gets into the body by endocytosis, infection of the transmit. And then you have this translation, brings out different proteins, which then release to the body to form, for which the body then reacts. On the right, you find a simplified figure of what is happening. This is just to know, I'm sure you all know about this one. What I've done is that there are different vaccine types. We're going to be focusing on the mRNA, which is the one. So the vaccine, different types have been made, inactivated vaccine, non-replicating competent vaccines. We also have the RNA vaccines. There are quite a lot of virus particles, viral particles, all sorts of things have been tried. But in the next slide, we see some of the ones that have actually been approved by WHO as of WHO or some other countries. Among the protein subunit vaccines, there are 2 of them. There's the Novavax by Novavax, which is a manufacturer in the US, Covovax, also by SII, which is actually similar to what the Novavax has provided, but is being produced in Serum Institute in India. There are the RNA vaccines. We know the Spikevax, which is the Moderna, called by a popular name, Comirnaty, which is by the Pfizer BioNTech. We have the non-replicative types, 2 of them. These are adeno 6, which is just one, and the heterologous adeno 6 and adeno 5, which is also called Sputnik. The Viria is the one by Oxford AstraZeneca, and Covishield is made in, there's a slide, Covishield should go to there are inactivated vaccines also available, the Covaxin by Bharat of India. There's Covilo and coronavirus, both by Chinese companies. But the focus, as I said, is going to be more on the mRNA vaccines, which is what the WHO has approved. Way back early in 2021, the WHO, in order to, this problem about the inequitable distribution of vaccine, which I know is inequitable, but not the reason that we're giving for it being inequitable. I'll talk about that later. WHO, in order to bring this pandemic to an end under control, we're planning to ensure that there's capacity in different parts, the low to medium income countries, so that they can begin to produce COVID-19 vaccines and scale up manufacturing so that we can have global access and reduce this problem which we're having with the inequitable distribution, not just for vaccines only, but also for drugs, diagnostics, and vaccines. That was early in 2021. By towards the end of 2021, WHO now called out for countries who are interested, expression of interest in joining this hub and spoke, which you're going to be talking about. And they were looking at small to middle-sized, either public or private manufacturers, who are making medical products, could it be drugs, vaccines. But on this particular thing, we're looking at with the COVID-19 mRNA vaccine. So the hub at that time was to focus on that one. The aim was being to assemble this technology to good manufacturing practices, and then so that at these different spots, more vaccines can be produced, and then to be able to transfer the technology from all those countries that have the capacity, to and the know-how to existing or people who are ready to start producing vaccines in the low to middle income countries, specifically again focusing on COVID mRNA vaccine. So it could also be not just the countries, it could be also owners, private industries, who the cities between now, there's the transfer of the technology from the owners of the technology or who have the intellectual property rights. It could be academic institutions, could be pharmaceutical companies, or government organizations. So this call of interest was called to link the two sides together. And so that the ability to produce vaccine can be spread into the other parts, not limited to the Western world only. The efforts was going to be given to applicants who are either already generating who have clinical data, and that's one of the things we'll be talking about with this hub and spoke within Africa, because it's actually going to be a much rapid system than what was originally planned with the others. Currently, this looks at countries in Africa which have the capacity or are already producing one kind of vaccine or the other, whether veterinary or human or whatever. To my left, you find the different countries that have the capacity from Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, South Africa, and Nigeria. You probably will focus more on the veterinary vaccines rather than the human vaccines, because we were producing before, but we're no longer doing. For some of the other countries, we don't know. Now, if you look at the right, you see another one, which is what currently WHO, of the countries that applied, the ones that are selected by WHO, 6 of them. These are the first 6 countries. The aim is to get every country, as many countries as possible, to be involved in this. If you're producing vaccine before, can you upgrade your facility to add COVID vaccine? So of the 6 countries which were selected to receive the transfer of technology to produce messenger RNA was Egypt, you mentioned them, Kenya, Nigeria, Senegal, South Africa, and Tunisia. South Africa was going to be the hub from which all of the rest of the Africa, the spokes, will be deep into the different parts of the country. So this is something I'm just trying to know at the hub and the spokes. South Africa is at the center, and actually there's one other country which I missed out, which is Senegal. Senegal should be the other one, which is there. That makes the 6 countries so far approved by this. Now, how is the hub and what are the spokes, how are they going to work? It is where we are able to transfer appropriate technology using, at that hub will be set in Africa, where most of the activities, I'm sure Patrick will tell us more about the hub because he's quite involved with all the activities going on. And then we are the spokes, and then so that this from the hub, the technology is transferred to these different spokes where are located the 6 countries which have been mentioned, and will involve not just the production of new mRNA vaccine, but also training of the people who are going to be involved at the different levels, so that then you can then get the different 6 countries, so the actual production can take place in those countries. When people talk about the hub and spoke, it's actually a kind of business model which establishes clear-cut chain of command, and it's also designed to improve decision-making, so that decision concerning the mRNA will be made within the hub and the spoke, looking at not just the production, but also the market. But where are we going to sell these things? Which countries are going to buy the vaccines that are produced? How do we ensure that these hubs, these spokes and hubs are actually sustainable? Because if you are producing vaccine, nobody is buying, then there'll be a problem. If they're buying more from one side, you cannot produce enough, and they're not buying from another. So there's need for this hub and scope to work together in a clear chain of command, and also to improve decision making about those aspects. It allows the employees there to make inquiries with the appropriate people so as to improve consistency within, whether it's made in Senegal, whether it's made in Tunisia or Egypt. And then it enables the establishment itself, who is making the production, to make sure the process that it's at an industrial level, and well, that it is sustainable, because there's no need putting all that into. These are some of the areas I think we in Africa need to be talking to ourselves about. How do we sustain? Do we really need 6 hubs? 6 spokes? How do we manage the marketing of whatever is produced? And that has to be done by us, not by external sources. And then it permits a lot of training and provision of the necessary standard operating procedures, which will be replicable in each of the different spokes. So WHO decided we'll also come in and working with funders and donors, so that we will mobilize the financial support to establish both the hub and the spoke, and then also support the transfer of technology by working with the owners of the technology, to work together in a way that there be the need to establish this permanent vaccine production, not just something now, but to be a continuous thing, and where it is already going on. You improve their technology, but also to end up not for them to even adapt the messenger RNA to other diseases. So improved vaccines, existing vaccine, for example, we're still making the yellow fever vaccine in eggs. Can we use the new messenger RNA? These are issues that are, hopefully these groups will be looking at. So the project objective is to ensure that in all the WHO regions, they'll be able to produce vaccines as, as preparedness for current and future epidemic threats. The technology for messenger RNA, the aim is that it will be free of intellectual property constraints in countries, in our different countries. And all that such rights are made available, at the technology hub, which will then be shared with the African countries. And it is hoped that the future recipients of this technology will through non-exclusive license, be able to produce, not only produce for themselves, but also to export and distribute the vaccine in our different countries. And sometimes, take over some of the current COVID vaccine where they are being produced by agencies outside of Africa. So the mRNA, why did you use the mRNA vaccine as priority? There are different advantages, which is over the other technique. Remember, I mentioned something at the beginning, that you can have inactivated vaccine, you can have protein subunit, you can have DNA or whatever. So when you look at this, what are the advantages of messenger RNA over the others? The initiative prioritizes the messenger RNA technology because of certain reasons. Of course, it is not limiting itself to this, it can expand. It's been found that the messenger RNA is extremely efficacious in protecting against COVID-19, and protection is maintained to a large degree against variants. At least you've seen from what is happening in other parts of the world. We're seeing effect which countries are using. We don't have too much information about which countries are using inactivated vaccines, but from what is available from the messenger RNA, the vaccines that are currently in use, the Pfizer's, the J&J, the Moderna, and all those ones, they are finding that they're actually quite protective. Again, because of the mode of preparation of the messenger RNA, it is very flexible. It is easy to adapt, because we're now getting different variants, and therefore it becomes easy to quickly manipulate the messenger RNA to include current variants as they arrive, so that we can have much better efficacious vaccines. And then it can be produced by manufacturers of medicine, and already people have the basic facilities. The messenger RNA can be transferred with with additional training and support to make sure this, and many of the technical features of this current one is that it be free of the intellectual property rights in many of the countries who have been making with it. So what opportunities do we have? In this, we're producing, it will be produced initially COVID-19 vaccines, and also be able to upscale. It's adaptable for developing new vaccines and also producing better quality vaccines of ones that are currently in use. And then the human resource development and training in high technology is one of the advantages that we have. We reduce dependency and reduce our foreign debt, and then contribute to disease control. Let me end end with this, we must in Africa, I felt a bit, this is my personal opinion, that the frenzy to have so many countries produce COVID vaccine in Africa, we should be very careful about it. Because the important thing is not just producing, is how do we sustain that? Yes, we have 500 million or so population in the African region. How many of these African regions will buy these vaccines which are produced in the African country? How many of them that have the resources to even buy the vaccine and do not depend on foreign donors to provide the money they require for those vaccines? And if we're going to be doing that and we're going to depend on foreign donors, we have no control over where they decide to buy their vaccines from. So we must sit down in Africa. I mean, do we need 6? Do we need more? Can we then ensure that whatever vaccines we have in different places, production we have in different places, they are sustainable? So that decision in the African region, how do we distribute what is produced? Are we going to have a meeting amongst ourselves and say, okay, Senegal, you're producing this, you provide for X, Y countries, B countries or Tunisia, you're producing for this, then we know, so that we map it out right from onset, so that we don't have only one of them surviving and the others not survive because they're producing vaccines which cannot be sold to anybody. So there's still a lot of internal discussion. I'm hoping that this hub, which is coming from SAR, will look into all those other aspects, not just transfer of technology or training. What about the marketing? I think we need to look into all that one. Let me stop here. And as I made in my notice, I have a 1 o'clock flight to catch. So please forgive me if I have to dash off at about 1 o'clock. I mean, to leave about 1